Look what I got. I got something new. This is the RodeCaster Pro. The RodeCaster Pro. This is brand new to my home studio, and if you're interested in doing any sort of live streaming or podcasting, this little baby is the ticket, and I'm going to play with it right now and talk about it. Hey, look what I got. I've got the brand new RodeCaster Pro here. Now, it's primarily targeted at people who do podcasts, but it could do an awful lot more, especially for people like me who want to do a YouTube channel live. And when you do a channel that's going live, you need a little bit a change of pace. You have to change some of your gear. Some of the gear you may be using just won't cut it. It won't give you the things you need. Now, first and foremost, let's get right into this and why this is going to be a fun addition to my home studio, and especially for my other channel, which if you haven't seen it yet is ideaoftheday.com. It's also YouTube /ideaoftheday.com. But just look it up, Idea of the Day, and you'll find me. I've got a bunch of videos, and I'm going to start posting regularly again. For a while, I was posting them every day for about 500 days, and I'm going to start relaunching that channel very soon. So let's get right into it. It comes in a nice big box, and one of the things I love about this thing is most people hate reading instruction manuals, and they really go over to the top of their instruction manual. Now watch this. I'm going to open the box and show you what's inside. These are the instructions. Fell out all over the place here, but believe it or not, sorry about that, home viewers. These are the instructions. They come on these giant cards. They literally put the entire documentation on giant flashcards. Now, it may seem strange to put the documentation on flashcards like this, but they know that some of the people who are going to be using these kinds of devices are people who are working in a studio environment, and they may have a team, and they might want to literally make posters out of these, and they even made it a point of making these glossy. So you can mark on them with a dry erase marker and make your own notations about settings and stuff. So everything you need to know is on these cards. And they're double-sided. So I think that's a huge, huge advantage. And we'll get into some of the other things that that are well thought out on this particular unit. Now, first and foremost, what the heck is a RodeCaster Pro? And for what it's worth, Rode has a confusing set of product names. There are podcaster pros and such casters. This is the RodeCaster Pro, not to be confused with those other caster Rode products. So let's look at the specifics. First and foremost, what I have been using for a long time on my channels has been a audio recorder. In this case, this is a Zoom H6, which accepts up to 6 XLR inputs or other types of inputs, quarter inch as well. And I was using that. And just to talk about our current configuration right now is I've got 4 microphones going into this. I always have to look up the name because it confuses me with other Rode products. The RodeCaster Pro. So I've got 4 microphones going into the RodeCaster Pro, and then coming out of one of the headset jacks, I have a cable going to my Canon EOS 70D. Now, if you were using this for live podcasting, you would actually come out of the USB, which I can't see too well, but it's there. There's a USB that'll go to your computer, which you can then pipe into your streaming software. But right now, I'm not doing this live, but it's going straight into my camera. Now, I have an attenuated cable, and since it's an output through the headset, you kind of just set the volume level at a comfortable level, and it should come out pretty clean on the camera. In fact, what I'll do is, normally at the end, I merge all this stuff together, and I take the clean audio, which is coming to you, or will be coming to you, through a micro SD card, which somewhere back there is a slot for the micro SD card. So I sync up my audio in post, like most people who use professional audio gear. So I'm going to just let you hear right now what the sound is as it's piped through the Canon itself using the attenuator cable. Now again, this isn't an optimal way of doing things, but this is what the audio sounds like that is being piped into the Canon. And just to be clear, I don't have a version of the audio that would have been what it would be like if I had nothing but the audio on the camera. But suffice it to say, as most of you know, audio coming out of a DSLR is extremely subpar. You can't use that for the kind of stuff that you're going to want to do on a professional looking channel. So with that in mind, what do we have going on here? We have 4 XLRs currently going into this. This one here is a Sennheiser MKH 416. This is about $1,000 microphone. It's currently on a Rycote shock mount. That probably adds another 100 and change to the price. Actually, I think it was less than $100. Anyhow, that's a Sennheiser MKH 416. The next mic, whoa, this one here is no slouch. This is the $1,300 Neumann TLM 103. I don't have a pop filter on it right now, so it may pop a little bit, but this is a Neumann TLM 103. It's a $1,000 mic, and in this anniversary edition, which comes with the shock mount, it's $1,300. So you're hearing now the audio from these 2 premium microphones as they're being recorded on the RodeCaster Pro. Next to this, I have the this is a Shure Sm7b. The Sm7b, which is a condenser mic. Excuse me, it's a dynamic mic. These other mics are condensers, and it is currently getting a little bit of a boost from an SE Dynamite, which is a it gives it, you feed it phantom power, and it will give you about a 20 dB boost in power. Normally I use a cloud lifter, the CL1, but today I'm using the SE Dynamite. And last but not least, this is a Rode NT1. The Rode NT1 is, of course, made by Rode, and they actually have presets in here where if you tell it using a Rode NT1, it automatically sets certain gain and other attributes right off the bat. Now, what I like about this unit, which is why I'm going to use this for live, is in addition to the ability to record the 4 microphones, it also has 3 additional inputs, one of which is a USB input. So if while you're piping into your computer, if you're playing audio from iTunes or from Pandora or whatever audio streams you may have, including Skypes or other video conferencing, whatever audio is coming through your computer could be piped into a USB stream. So you have the 4 microphones, the USB stream. Then, in addition to that, you have essentially a quarter inch, or not a quarter inch, a cell phone positioning. It's a headphone, like on a cell phone adapter. So you could put that in there, and I've got that currently plugged in, for example, to my iPad through the headset jack. So what you're hearing now is audio that's coming into my stream. So if I wanted to, I can have some pre-recorded music in the background, or I could use the I could use either microphone here. I could use the headset, and of course I have individual volume controls on that, so I can bring that up or down, put a little bed there if I want. So what I'm able to do is, if I was, let's say, Skyping with somebody on my iPad or my iPhone or on my computer, and I wanted to use a traditional, quarter inch, eighth inch, whatever the headphone size jack, I could do that. So that's a 6th input, 4 microphones, the USB plus that, and in addition, there's another slider here which you could pair with Bluetooth. So you could use that once again with your cell phone, with any Bluetooth source. It could be particularly helpful if you wanted to have a live cast and you actually wanted to give out your real cell phone number. If you did that, you could actually bring in that extra party on your Bluetooth line. Now, in addition to that, and this has a whole bunch of other features we're going to get into in a little bit, it has these 8 pads. One of the pads, hey, and I could dial up the volume on this. This could be my intro music. Thanks for joining us on our podcast. And who do we have here in the studio today? Bring that down. And of course, each of these pads are programmable to, well, in addition to the sounds that are built in, and there are 8, and I'll go through those now. You can change them to anything you want. You can record them directly with your microphone and just put something in there, or through your audio input if you wanted to do that. Or you can use their software and just plug this whole unit in USB and then drag music files or wave files into each of the 8 pads. And they could be controlled in a way that, let's say I hit the button and then I hit that, it means stop. And you notice each time I do, it's starting from the top. But you can also configure it through the software so that it becomes a pause button. So you would play a little, pause, and then let's say this was an interview and you wanted to make a comment on it. Or maybe it's something from a movie and you want to talk about it. And every time you hit it, you want to pause and then talk about it and then continue. You can program it to continue where it leaves off instead of doing that. And of course, they have other kind of corny things built in. Hey, that's right. I'll be here till Tuesday. Don't forget to try the veal. So you got a laugh track and a little applause, if that works for you. And I could simultaneously play all 3, or so you could. Yeah, that one didn't go over too well, did it? And that's the last one. So these are the ones that came with the unit. It's built in. And again, I can play any one of them or any combination of them. And the colors are not only configurable, but they're intelligent. So if a track is playing, it's brighter during the duration of its playing, which is really helpful because if you are triggering a sound effect and then you hear it and you just want to kind of shut that one sound off without turning off everything else, it's kind of hard to remember sometimes which one you triggered, and you don't want to shut the right one off. So if I'm playing, let's say, the applause or the laughter and the crickets, and I want to turn one off, I know at least to only turn off one of the ones that are lit. So that's some of the superficial buttons there. If you were doing a podcast where there were multiple people, you can have 4 different headsets in the back plus one in the front, and each of the 4 you could control their volume individually. It has a master output volume. It has mute buttons. It has sliders, and I'm going to discuss that because that's an important thing here, and it's going to definitely play into the conversation we're going to go on to next. But if I want to, not only can I mute by dialing down or hitting the mute button or the solo button, which are kind of nice. Let's say I'm playing this track, and I just want to, instead of just turning it off, just want to tone it down and then bring it up and then bring it down, or just shut it all together. And then there are similar mute type buttons. If someone's talking, you want to kind of change the course of the sound, dial somebody down while one person is speaking. That's kind of a cool thing. But what I found really great about this, and I have to say, before a couple of weeks ago, I was on the fence about whether I was going to buy one of these, because there were certain things that were really essential to me that I got so used to by using the Zoom. Because what I love about a Zoom is, and I should do a review of this, I really should, I haven't done it yet, you have the 4 independent tracks, and then I have the adapter that gives me 2 more. So I can record 6 tracks. And when I do that, it'll create a folder for each piece with 6 wave files in it, 1 for each of the inputs. So if I'm recording on input 3, it's going to be wave 00003 or something similar to that. But basically, there's a track for each one of these. Now, what I had learned about the I keep looking, the RodeCaster Pro, was that when you did all these special effects and you played with your dials, that it was mainly for that live experience, and that when you created your wave file on your SD card. It was more of an archive of what the show was like, with all of the edits and slides that you may have done during the course of your recording. As an example, I'm going to play this part here, and as I do this, I'm going to take my primary mic, the Sennheiser MKH416, I'm going to keep lowering the volume. So that particular track has gotten very low, and I could bring it very high. Now, here's the really important, interesting thing. When you use the older version of their firmware, it had essentially the one wave file on your card. And that one wave file was a stereo image of the performance, whatever it was. If you had 4 people plus 2 dial-ins and you had some sound effects, it was the one file that essentially was what went out at that moment. But what if you're doing something like I am right now, where I'm going to produce this as a video at the end, and it's not live, not this session. And there are going to be parts where I'm going to want a little more of the Sennheiser and maybe turn these down. There may be parts where I maybe played this a little too low, and I'm thinking, oh, well, you know what? That was a little lower than I wanted. Bring it up. Bring it down. Now, why is this important? Well, to me, that was a deal breaker, because I would want to record all my materials and have a separate file for each one of these parts, or at least the parts I was using. They put out a recent firmware update that is a game changer for people like me. Instead of what they did before, they still save the single wave file, but it's not a regular wave file. It's a multi-wave or multicast wave. I forget the actual plural wave. It's a funny way of saying it's a wave file where all of the tracks, just like normally a wave file could be left and right, 2 tracks, each wave file has 14 subparts. And if you're using the right kind of software, Audacity will do it, Reaper, Pro Tools, Final Cut Pro easily does this. If you take a track, a single track, and you double click into it, you can see all of its components, 14 of them. Now, personally, I'd like to be able to turn some of the tracks off. Like if I know I wasn't going to use USB, it'd be nice to disable that track and make the file a little smaller. It'd be great to disable Bluetooth and the mobile input if I wasn't using them. So let's break down the 14 tracks and what they're doing and why. So, and by the way, is this thing still playing? Oh yeah, let's get a little bed while going, right? A little bit of music. So right now I'm talking and the audio is going on. And in this particular performance, your head down, you can hear it. But let's just say that as I was doing that, I realized it was a little too much when it was done live. Well, in the 14 tracks, here's how they break it down. The first 2 tracks are a stereo mix, which is essentially what's in my headset right now. It's the mixture of all of these things at the same time, exactly the way it would have gone out had it been live. With the other 12 tracks, what they're doing is they're taking each of these tracks, or each of these devices, and splitting them into 2. So you have the two, let's call those finished product tracks. And then you have 1 track for the mic number 1, 1 for number 2, number 3, number 4. So there's 4 more there. And then 2 tracks for the USB, because it's stereo, 2 tracks for the mobile input, which is also used again for the iPad or any quarter inch or whatever, headphone style jack, and 2 for the Bluetooth. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So it's 2 for each of those. And then the remaining 2 are a stereo mix. Actually, I think it's a mono mix. No, I think it's a stereo mix of your effects board. Now, what's great about that is that if I'm going awry and I'm moving these things up, and again in an unpredictable way, and maybe not a professional way, and I'm bringing up, see, that's here. I'm going to leave it going. In fact, while I'm talking, it's still playing in my headset. But through the magic of software, since it's storing all these original tracks, right here. Again, oops, I'm clicking stuff. Maybe I don't want that on right now, but it's going through there, but you're not hearing it, although I am, because all of the original 14 tracks are individually there, and they are saved in a format that disregards the settings of the mix. So, I mean, that's a huge thing. So as long as the gain on each of the tracks is comfortable and there's no clipping, all of the 14 tracks are being saved in their original form. They disregard the settings of the mix. So as I'm playing with this right now, in my ear, I just went down heavily on these 3 microphones. But as I bring them back up, I can now hear them, but it did not affect the wave file for any of those tracks, which in this case would be starting at track 3. So microphone number 1 is actually track 3, because the first 2 are the first mix. So this microphone 1 is track 3, microphone 2 is track 4, microphone 3 is 5, 4 is 6, etc. So you basically, if you count from the left and then just add 2 for the throwaway track, there's your 14 tracks. Now, one of the other great things about this is its professional build quality. This thing is made to last. It's all metal where it counts, everywhere that it counts. It's got a big, colorful screen with where as it's going, you can monitor the levels on all of the channels as it's going through. In fact, maybe I could use this camera on my iPad and shoot some footage that maybe could be helpful and shed some light onto that. So I'm going to do that over here. And it's still recording as we're doing this here. So what you're seeing here, I have the ability to add a marker. This will be fun trying to synchronize after this. And there's my knobs for my individual channels, and there's the buttons there and the headset area over here. Why am I looking at the screen? Looking over here. And that's your master thing. So, and you have mute buttons and solo buttons on each track. And again, to just draw attention to this again, I'm on the first microphone primarily right now. And as I'm talking, I'm going to lower it. And it's actually now at 0. But when you hear this back on YouTube, it will not be at 0 in this particular section, because it will only be paying attention to this knob in the final stereo mix, tracks 1 and 2. So to me, this is a huge thing for someone who's doing videos that are sometimes live and sometimes not live. The record button is big and red. You always know when it's recording. I've had issues in the past where I've used my Zoom H6 and, it does have a light, but it's not really in your face as much. And I've actually recorded entire videos where I forgot to hit the record button. This is always visible. You can always tell it's recording. Plus, there's an additional indicator on the screen itself. Again, I can monitor my levels in real time as they're going through. So that's a huge thing. Back to other logistics. Everything here is professionally put together. The power cable itself doesn't just snap in; it actually screws in, so you won't have issues of it pulling out in the middle of a performance. Each of the XLRs lock in, and there's a button that you push to unlock them. You have your 4 separate headphone jacks. You have a stereo out over here for monitoring. It's really put together with a professional in mind. I love this thing, and I intend to use this on Idea of the Day, my other YouTube channel, to do some live stuff. And maybe I'll do some live stuff on this channel too. So it's something I'm looking forward to using. I'm really glad I made this purchase. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. And a thumbs up and a comment every now and then is really great for the channel. So if you want to support me in the channel and you want to get more content like this, a little thumbs up every now and then is much appreciated. And subscribe. And when you do, hit the bell. That kind of gets you an alert whenever a new video is put up, because I've got a lot of gear to go over, and I'm going to be doing more head-to-head mic comparisons and all sorts of other things. I've got more gear that I have yet to show than I have already shown, which is kind of hard to believe considering how much gear I've already shown on my channel. I've got new mixers. I've got a karaoke gadget. I've got all sorts of gadgets that I want to go through. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. You know, you and I, we kind of get along so well. We should meet one day. I mean, we've talked about it a dozen times by now. Yeah, why not? A little, you know, go out to a movie or something like that. How's that sound? Oh, I should just let you know, by the way, the pictures of my profile, they're not exactly accurate. The muscles you saw in the pictures, I photoshopped them in. Yeah, I know. And the head, I'm not good at Photoshop, so I left the head on it. Yeah. No. Well, how about coffee? Oh, hey, sorry. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I hope you liked the video, yada, yada, yada. Hit like, hit share, hit subscribe, hit the bell, make sure everybody sees it, share it with your friends, and thanks for watching.
Is the Rode, I don't know what it's called. You think I have enough microphones? Right. Hey, I'm almost ready. What do you think? Looking good. Getting good. Looking good. Feeling good, Billy Ray. Looking good, Billy Ray. All right. Hey, am I even on the air? I think I'm on the air. Am I on the air? Well, not quite on the air. You see, this isn't live. But that's part of the story. But what I found really interesting, because, you know, everybody hates to read instruction manuals. I mean, let's face it, who likes to read instruction manuals? Let me show you the instruction manuals that came with this. Really? They're not in the box. I took them out. Let's start over. Don't.